That little leak, when you think of like the Titanic, the smallest little leak can take down an entire ship and all the people in it. And so you just have to make sure that your marriage is airtight.
Ooh.
Well, hello you guys. Welcome back
to our channel. Welcome back. It's good to see you. Fun little fact before we start this video, we recorded an intro that was money. It was fire. You would have loved it. And guess what? It accidentally got deleted.
Doesn't even matter, because we're just gonna jump on in. If y'all clicked on the title, you know that today we're talking about boundaries that you will need in marriage. And so we do want to encourage you, if you're not married, to stay watching, because these boundaries are really important for you to like adopt now before you're even married, because it'll make it a lot easier transition when you do get married.
Let me learn you why. I'm gonna teach you why. I'm gonna explain a few quick things. The number one thing is...
Oh, I feel like I just pulled my muscle. What just happened? I tried to move my leg and it got stuck in my muscle. I'm like...
So what I was saying is that age does not correlate to maturity. A lot of people think that, oh, I'll just learn that whenever I get to that point, but that's not a healthy way to go about things, because there are a lot of people that are older and married and they're making immature decisions inside of marriage because they never chose to learn how to set up healthy boundaries that respect not only the person they're with, but themselves. You're never too young to start learning these things, and even if you're not even in a relationship, they're really good things to start practicing, because before we got into a relationship, these were things that I was practicing because I just learned that. I saw some of my friends get married and I saw that it was a harder first few years for them. I'm like, well, how do I work on that? Well, they had such a big life change. They went from being this to now they're this. And so for me, I started to kind of live like what a married man would live like. And that way that as I walk into marriage and I experience that big life change, I'm now more prepared for that, because it's hard change, but it's really good change.
We highly recommend it. Back to our original video.
Let me just talk to y'all just for a few seconds about why you need boundaries. Just think about a plant, and a plant is in some bad soil, some bad dirt, if you will. Will that plant survive?
No.
Probably not, or it's gonna struggle to survive. And do you wanna struggle to survive, or do you wanna thrive? The first type of boundaries we're going to talk about are personal space boundaries. The first one that I'll talk about is that I like my own personal space. And if Tori could be touching me like this nonstop, she'd be jacked.
Literally.
And I've had to kind of come to the middle a bit, and so is she, for her to understand that, hey, I actually need some alone time. And that was a boundary, because I realized that I was holding in some frustration, not like at her, but because I didn't have time by myself to just decompress, because that's how I kind of operate. And I didn't want her to feel bad. I didn't want her to feel like I didn't want to be around her, but it wasn't that I didn't want to be around her, is that I just wanted to be alone in general. But that was a personal space boundary that we had to put into place. But then we also had a personal space boundary when it came to people visiting us.
We did this especially for the first year of marriage, and we like talked about if there was ever like exceptions, but we liked the rule. Like, we love hospitality, but when someone stays for more than like 4 or 5 days, then it really can like take a toll on your marriage and your intimacy and all of those things. And so we were just like, okay, we're gonna go ahead and set a boundary that we love for people to come in, but there's gonna be a 4 or 5 day.
It was a pretty hard 4-day rule. And there's no back-to-back staying. Because just like the example Tori gave, where if you say yes to this, you're saying no to this. And so because we were saying yes, or we could have said yes to so many lovely people that we wanted to visit us, we're saying no to connecting as a newlywed husband and wife. We had to set some good boundaries where we can both really enjoy our community, but also learn to enjoy each other in our new marriage.
And this is another thing, if people get upset by your boundary, then
they're probably the ones that need it.
They probably need the boundary. You know, like if you have great people in your life, then they're going to completely understand your boundaries and respect you even more for it.
The next one is emotional space boundaries. Ooh. These are interesting ones, because the biggest thing I'll say is that people operate differently. They absolutely do. And Tori and I have experienced that in our own marriage, where she likes to verbally process. How do you say
I'm an external processor.
External processor, and I'm the
100%.
opposite of that. So there was a period of time where she was sharing a ton of stuff with me, and honestly, I was like...
You're like, this is a lot of words.
I'm like, who talks like... I'm like, wow.
You talk a lot.
I do talk a lot.
You do talk a lot.
Right. But you wanna make decisions as a team, and like I'm just not used to that. I'm so used to just doing my own thing.
Yeah.
And I had to understand that it's really helpful for you to have me listen to you because you feel connected.
Yeah.
And like for me, I'm kind of like, I didn't need to externally process decision-making things in order to feel connected, so I just didn't understand it.
Yeah.
And so she had to share with me that it's important for me to listen to her so she can feel emotionally connected. It was an important thing for me to do.
Yeah. And also a boundary in terms of like me realizing, oh, okay, there's some things that like I need my girlfriends for. You know, I think sometimes people walk into marriage and think that everything goes directly to your spouse now, you know, and like something I realized, I think in the first month or two of marriage, was that Chad is not Chelsea, you know, and like I love my best friend Chelsea, and she is an external processor as well, so we could literally talk for 5 hours straight and still have 5 more hours of conversation left to be had. And Chad's like, I can't. I
just want to solve problems, but y'all are cool just to talk, and like
we can just talk in circles.
Not even in circles, but you communicate about things.
Totally.
So you share how you're feeling about stuff, and but these are good emotional boundaries to set to how you both process things differently. The next one is verbal communication boundaries and nonverbal communication boundaries. These are just examples, by the way. We have a ton more. An example of a verbal communication boundary, when it came to us disagreeing or having an argument or a fight, I'm the type of one that wants to raise my voice. And Tori set a boundary to say, hey, like that's not okay. I'm not going to put up with that. But she didn't say it quite like that, but it's what she meant. And so
nicer words.
It was important for me to hear that boundary and say, because for me, I didn't realize how threatening it was for me to raise my voice because like I'm just kind of used to that, you know, but that just because I'm used to a way of life doesn't mean that it's the best for, again, the environment of our marriage. And so you really do have to figure out, how do we like to communicate with each other to build the best marriage?
Yeah, you can't expect what you don't communicate. And so if I never told him like, hey, when you raise your voice, like that's just not gonna fly, like we're gonna have to separate, cool off, and then we can like talk calmly, then we would have continued communicating in a way that was not healthy for me emotionally, you know.
And the same goes for nonverbal communication, where typically whenever I would start to raise my voice, she would storm out of the room. Yeah. Like, and so for me, I felt really bad because I was trying to figure this thing out right now, and that's not how she wanted to operate. So then I got frustrated because the nonverbal communication boundary was blocked for me. Yeah. Because there's, of course, a lot of people probably have baggage of being afraid that someone will just leave. Yeah. You know, and like setting some really good, you know, no eye rolling. It's stuff that we have to work on. Yeah. You know, like
not using the D word. Great boundary in marriage.
Yeah, we'll put the word up here. So. Okay, the next one is boundaries with family. Like, you know, like your parents, your in-laws, whatever. Those are some really important boundaries because it's kind of difficult. We're now immediate family, and our family is our extended family.
Yeah, that was really hard. I feel like, especially when we first got married. I think what made it a little different / maybe even easier for us, just for that first year of marriage, I think it was really healthy that we actually like didn't live in the same town. And we were able to kind of establish our relationship as husband and wife, and we love our family. We're really close to both sides of our family, but I think it was really good for our first year of marriage to have that like slight separation, and then now it's like, oh, all the boundaries are like respected.
Yeah, because it does get difficult on where are you going for Christmas this year? What about Thanksgiving or this holiday? Or
those are hard to navigate.
They're really hard decisions to make, and you don't want to show favoritism to either family, and so that means if one family's not getting it, then neither family's getting it. And so those are some difficult conversations, and the way that you and your spouse communicate about those things is really important.
Oh yeah.
You know, because it gets super intense because this is that person's mom or dad or brother or whatever, and you know, the same thing for this person,
and things are changing. You know what I mean? I think it's really hard sometimes to even just like come to terms with, okay, now we're married and I'm so used to spending the holidays this particular way, and now that's changing, and that's okay. We embrace change, but sometimes it's kind of rocky. You're like, oh, how do I navigate that? But the best way to navigate it is very healthy communication.
Yeah. The next form of communication, the next form of boundaries is boundaries with kids. We don't have kids yet.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're already starting to practice some of those boundaries. For example, even the home we're building, and we'll share with you more on this in our home design vlogs and all that stuff. But the whole left side of our house, like all of this over here, is just for us two. This is not for our kids to come in there and play. This is not for any of that. This is to protect our own intimacy and our own personal space.
Yeah.
And everything on this side of our door is free reign. Do whatever you want. Jump on the couch carefully, you know.
I feel like it's like the Garden of Eden, where it's like you have the whole garden, but not this tree.
It's protected, and you do have to make those concerted efforts to protect your marriage, to listen to each other, and to be intimate together, and to not just allow, whether it's just pets or kids or whoever, to come into your relationship and disrupt things that it's reserved for you two.
Yeah, you just have to keep your priorities in check. It's God first, spiritual like relationship with the Father, that's first. Then it's marriage and kids and work and all of that kind of stuff. But you have to like make sure those priorities are in line.
Yeah.
Or
your marriage may get out of line. So the next one, before we get to the Q&A, is also boundaries with friends.
Yeah. I mean, this was definitely different because I feel like both Chad and I, like, we have really good groups of friends, like girl groups and guy groups. And when you walk into marriage, you don't have to like lose those groups of people. I think a lot of people like walk into marriage and then it's like they almost isolate themselves and they don't hang out with any of their friends anymore.
See, it happens so much.
Yeah, and it's like we've seen friends really hurt by that and have had to like counsel friends that have like lost friends because
the person went off and got married.
And it's like never talk to them again. And so I think it's really important to obviously have boundaries and make sure that your marriage comes first. But that does not mean that you have to like, and now I'm not friends with any of my other friends. Like, it's really important, especially for me personally, to have girl time in my life. Like Chad said, like, I'm an external processor. Like, I thrive in my like girl gang. Like, I love my girls. You know what I mean? Like, I can feel it when I'm not having enough girl time. So it's a priority for me and I make time for it. And, you know, honestly, on a weekly basis, I like need at least like a walk around the lake or a girls' night or some coffee dates or something like that, because it makes me a better wife.
I think it's really important to know this, that your spouse is not everything to you.
Yeah.
Like they are not everything to you. And you need to hear, they are not everything.
Yeah.
You need to have outside sources, whether it's mentors or friends or other family or coworkers. You need to have other forms of community. And because you cannot put the pressure for this person to be everything to you and to fill all the different community needs that you have.
Yeah.
And so it's a really good thing to be in good community outside of it. But then on the other side, you have to be really smart with the community that you're choosing to speak into your marriage or that you're involving with. Because, for example, before I was even dating Tori, I started to make efforts to stop hanging out with women one-on-one because I wanted to start practicing that walk to where once I'm married, I want to start practicing where my wife is. I want her to feel safe. I want her to feel protected. And so for me, I started segueing out of that, even whenever I was single.
Yeah. Something I had written, this was from the Boundaries in Marriage book. I saw some highlights on it, and it said all good marriages need outside support, so we need to seek out the right and appropriate sources. These should be people who are not only safe, but whose influence on us strengthens the marriage bond. And so for us, even like when we were choosing who was in our wedding, we wanted people who we knew if there was something going on with us, their advice was for us. You know what I mean? It was like for our benefit. It's like sanctifying us, not just like, oh yeah, girl, like you should definitely, like, you deserve more, you should leave, you know what I mean?
You should withhold being intimate with him because he said that, or there's a lot of bad advice people can throw around.
Yeah, and so you just want to make sure that like the people you surround yourself with, your inner circle, the people who like you go and seek wisdom from, they are in alignment with God and like you trust their advice. Yeah.
Q&A time.
Okay, so I feel like we actually answered a lot of these questions that I had screenshotted. So one of them was boundaries with in-laws. And I think boundaries with in-laws are really important for you and your spouse to be on the same page and then have like a healthy conversation with your in-laws just about like what's appropriate and what's not.
Yeah, I think it's important that whether it's your family or it's your in-laws, you side with your spouse.
Yeah.
You know?
Priorities.
And of course that doesn't mean that if they're like wanting to do something terrible, you're like, oh yeah, go do that. But they are your person and you don't let your family come in between that.
Yeah. Guys and girls, best friends. So there was a lot of questions about like how do you handle your spouse having best friends of the opposite sex. And for us, like we're each other's best friend of the opposite sex, and we don't like hang out one-on-one with people of the opposite sex.
Yeah, I think it can be dangerous to create an emotional tie and dependency on someone of the opposite sex that's not your spouse.
Yeah.
And so that's why we were careful with that. You know, all her girlfriends, I love them to death. Like, I think they're amazing.
Yeah.
But like, I go to my guy friends for accountability. My best friends, the ones who know the deepest stuff about me, the ones who call me on my BS, the ones that lift me up when I'm down, are people I emotionally depend on.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's a healthy thing for me to emotionally depend on a woman who's not my wife, because I don't want to create emotional ties with someone like that. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that they can't be amazing friends.
Totally.
You know?
Like we're friends with each other's friends, but we hang out like all together. Like I wouldn't expect Chad to like go hang out with one of my best friends like alone. That would be weird and I wouldn't do that with his friends either. So,
but we have great relationships. Like for example, our friends Nina and Hudson. Like I'll talk to Nina about her photography business. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah, you know? It's not like this like crazy strict boundary that we've set that's like obnoxious. It's just a boundary is keeping something protected, because the enemy will use that slightest little inch, you know, to drive a wedge in your marriage. And I was talking to my friend Brittany about this, and she was saying like that little leak, when you think of like the Titanic, the smallest little leak can take down an entire ship and all the people in it. And so you just have to make sure that your marriage is airtight.
Ooh. Gosh. People are funny.
Odd question. Do y'all fart in front of each other? I personally think it's a great source of laughter.
I think
we don't.
Yeah, Tori and I don't.
But Nina and Hudson do.
Yeah, and our friends Ben and Alessa, I believe
do. They think it's hilarious.
And so it really is, just like the whole point of this video is that you communicate what's really good for your relationship. Like, I think it's personally gross, and I'm so thankful you do too. But other people think it's hilarious, and like, I think that's fun. Like,
for you. I think it's fun for you. Like, we love that for you.
Yeah.
But just not for
And
us.
that's why you don't want to take the boundaries we're setting as like gospel.
They're not.
Communicate with your person to make sure they feel valued.
For sure.
And they can laugh at some fart noises.
Okay, next is, how do you balance needing your own time versus quality time together?
That's such a good question, because I love that they said quality time together.
Yeah. Us
sitting together on our phones is not quality time. Mm-hmm. And so that's a really good thing to, number one, figure out what your love languages are. For example, what's going to fill up your cup the most?
Yeah.
Tori's is physical touch. And so if we're watching a movie and I'm like rubbing her back or something like that, she feels super loved, and that's that quality time that she desires. But for me, my love language has increasingly been becoming
acts of
service. And so if we were to be together and say we clean for like an hour, I actually feel really loved, because I feel like, you know, clean space is a happy space. You know what I mean?
I'm like, yay me.
And, well, I'm just saying, I feel very loved. And so I feel like a lot of the things I needed were met. Yeah. And so that was a weird example, but you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, yeah. And something else that we do that's a boundary is like, we set one night a week that's an intentional date night. And I think that's really important. I think we're actually going to do like a vlog about like cheap date night ideas, like how to date intentionally. So if that's a video y'all want, make sure to comment it below.
Yeah, because you don't want to fall into the just like Netflix and chill life. Now, don't get me wrong, we love to watch a movie and just like order a pizza.
Yeah,
that's not a bad thing. But you don't want it to become so routine. You want to you want to continue to pursue each other and enjoy it.
Want to keep that spark alive.
Pour gasoline on it.
Not married, but hope to be one day. Have your boundaries evolved, or are they set in stone?
Yeah, I
think they've definitely evolved.
Yeah. Now, even the home we're building has like a permanent guest room.
Yeah.
And so before, we were like, no guests longer than 3 or 4 days, and now it's kind of like they have their own entrance.
Yeah. Yeah. We definitely, they're constantly evolving, and something we didn't speak on that I think is really important too is like setting boundaries with work inside of your marriage.
Ooh,
and that's something that we are still working on. Truly, we're like trying to get a lot better about setting like actual business hours and not working till 11 p.m. And so we're taking steps to make sure that we have healthy boundaries with work. And when we figure that out,
I would say
we're the first to know.
We're getting a lot better.
We are getting so much better.
We're doing something that's bad for our environment. Tori says, I'm really unhappy working this late. And we talk about it and we say, okay, we're going to
create a new boundary.
We create a new boundary and you try it out. And like, that's a good thing.
Yeah, for sure. Boundaries when it comes to balancing friends, general life, and time together. And I kind of feel like we were like touching on that. And I do think it's very different depending on different couples, because we don't work 9 to 5 jobs. So if I need quality time with a friend, like I can take a lunch break and like go walk the lake, but I know other people don't have that like flexibility. So I think it's really important for you to decide like what you need in your life and then plan your life accordingly. Like you have the power to do that. Like you can design the life you want to live. And I think that's what's amazing about boundaries is it's saying, okay, I want to live within these parameters that I operate the best. Like for me, I operate way better in the mornings. And so I'm trying to set boundaries where I get a lot of the work that like takes the most effort for me to do when I'm like performing the best in the morning, and do the other work that doesn't take me being on more like at night or later or whatever that is. And so, and then for me, I need girl time. So I'm prioritizing that, and I need quality time with my husband. So prioritizing that. And so just like making sure that your priorities are all like in your schedule.
Yeah, exactly what she said. Write down what you need and then write down how it is that you achieve those needs and fit it into your schedule.
Yeah. Is there any vulnerable piece of information that you should not share with your spouse?
Yeah, I mean, like, for example, Tori's not my accountability partner. Like, when it comes to monitoring my online search stuff, she's not my accountability partner. I have friends for that. And so it's not that I am like, ooh, I'm going to keep a secret from her. It's not like that at all. It's just, she's not something that I'm working on with her. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's also not like secretive. Like if I ask, he's not going to lie, but it's like, I don't think it's healthy for me to be his accountability on certain things. And so it's just healthy communication.
Yeah. And it's like, it's been communicated that I have guys that I go to war with on this. Yeah. And so she empowers me to do that, you know? Yeah. And so, but it's not like she has no idea, you know? Yeah.
Should there be physical and emotional boundaries with sex in marriage?
I think when it comes to boundaries and being intimate or having sex, I think the big things are just to make sure that the way that you all seek it within each other, or the way you're going about it, is truly pursuing that person and wanting to serve that person with that, rather than how can this person serve me in my physical desires and my physical whatever. Yeah. And so I think it's really important to make sure that you're not treating this person like, you know, an object. Yeah. I don't think that's healthy at all. And it's important to communicate through that. And that's one of the best parts about marriage is that, like, you talk about things. Yeah. You're like, hey,
it's like a safe place.
Like, I've had to learn that for Tori, pursuing her emotionally is really important. And she feels more connected to me whenever she feels emotionally connected to me. Yeah. But like, as a guy, I'm like, you look at me funny, and I'm like, I'm just being honest, you know. I needed to really learn to pursue her emotionally. Yeah. And so there were some good boundaries there to make sure that she didn't feel just like an object or anything. Yeah. And so.
Yeah. Do you think it's okay to have sex with your husband for pleasure and not for just trying to have a baby? Yes.
Next one.
Next, checking each other's phone. Do you need permission? Please keep my name private. Your name is private, and we don't personally check each other's phones, but like we have access to each other's phones.
Like,
it's just like
so right now, my phone is locked. Oh, it just read my face. I was gonna say, go ahead.
I have his code, but it's currently
is it unlocked?
Complicated. Yeah. Anyways, we have each other's code. We could check if we wanted to, but we trust each other enough that we don't.
Yeah.
So it's like a non-issue.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's been so good for our marriage because the only reason I get annoyed when she uses my phone or my computer is because I want them. Like, my computer's bigger than hers, and she'll use it, and I'm like, now I'm stuck with this little baby, and I'm like, not a huge guy, but I'm bigger, and I'm like, I can't type in this thing. We know each other's passwords, we know all this stuff, and it really creates a lot of freedom to know that she could check and, enjoy finding tennis articles.
Literally.
I think if you were to go check, if you go looking for trouble, that means that you're probably going to end up finding some, because if there's a reason to check, there's probably some trust issues there. Mm-hmm. So I do think it could be really smart to have healthy communication of how that person can make you feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
And it's a good thing for them to seek to make you feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't directly affect them. Mm-hmm. I think it's really, really great to honor each other and to go out of your way to make each other feel comfortable with each other. But I do think it is unhealthy just to be like grabbing their phone while they're sleeping and go snooping around. I don't think that's healthy at all.
And it's not going to help the other person trust you more either. So. Anyways, okay, I think that we're probably wrapping this video up because we tend to be so chatty.
Babe.
But I did want to end this video. My friend Brittany sent me a text when I told her that we were going to be talking about this. And I'm just going to read a little bit of it because there's a long text and all of it is fire. But this point in particular is I think the most important thing about boundaries is to remember that you don't want to wait until there's mistrust to set them. Set up boundaries out of respect for God, the other person, yourself, and your marriage. Some people feel like boundaries mean you don't trust each other, but it's the complete opposite. Boundaries reflect how much you honor the relationship you're in and the covenant you made before God.
And honestly, there's probably so much stuff we left out.
Oh, yeah. Tons. I'm going to think of all of it as soon as we say goodbye.
There's great resources on this topic,
but
it's such an important topic to go and start thinking about. Mm-hmm. And so we really do encourage you to, even if you're single, to think about what type of boundaries you'd want your future spouse to have practicing.
Like I can't expect Chad to have a boundary if I don't keep that same boundary.
Yeah. Boundaries are not set for me to control her or for her to control me.
Yeah.
They are set to create a free and responsible filled environment.
Yeah.
That way we both protect our relationship. It starts with me. And for her, it starts with her. And so with you,
starts with you.
Starts with you, guys.
Hey.
Love y'all.
Think that's it for today. I hope it was encouraging. If it was encouraging, make sure to send it to a friend. Share the love, share the encouragement. We love you guys.
Did you hide my tiny hand?
If you are not a part of the Masters fam yet, make sure to subscribe, become a part of the Masters fam. We love you guys, and we'll see you in the next video. He can't end it without his tiny hand. Oh my